All right, so we are creating a new file called dom3.html. Okay, so we're also bringing HTML up in this format. So here, what we want to learn this time around is how to create elements. So how we can use JavaScript DOM to create HTML elements. So that is what we're going to do. So I'm going to change the title to JavaScript DOM for creating HTML elements. So so the body is empty now, as you can see. So the body is empty, but we want to use JavaScript to put HTML tags inside the body. So that's what we want to do. So that's creating elements. So creating supposed to bring up script first. So creating elements. So so first of all, we are going to say let div. We want to create a div, a div tag. Let div equals to document dot create element. Into, so is a method. So we now provide the name of what we want to create. That's div. We are creating div tag. That's the name of the element we want to create. So then after that, we can create a content inside that particular div. So that's, we'll now say div.inner HTML. So we can put an HTML tag inside the div. So instead of using div.inner text, so because div is expected that when you have a div section, you must have a paragraph. So first of all, instead of just creating inner text directly, so we're going to use div.inner HTML equals to. So this means that we are creating an HTML tag. Div. Can you see now? This is us writing HTML inside JavaScript code. All right. So this is a paragraph, for instance. So we can say creating element, creating paragraph using JavaScript DOM manipulation, or whatever the case. So that's that. Then when we are done, this does not still mean anything. So here we are using create element document method. So here we are using inner HTML. So the next thing now is that if we save now, nothing will still happen. So HTML3. Yeah, so I save it, nothing is happening. But if we check the element, you will see the code there. The reason is because no text has been written in the body section. This body, nothing has been written here. So how do we now make sure this appears inside here? So what we'll do now is that we'll now pick we'll now say variable body equals to document dot get what's the name? variable dot body. So document dot body. Let's just use document dot body. So here we are referring to the body. So we can easily say body, this body now, body dot append child. That means we want to attach a child to the body. So which child are we attaching to the body? Div. This div that we created. So this div now we already attached a method to it so this is the div we are creating. This div now, because we had div.inner.html already, everything will be binded and we will see the div coming up here. So let me refresh that. So as you can see, creating paragraph using JavaScript DOM. So if you see it here, it's the same thing you will see, creating paragraph. So if you see inside the div now, initially the initial code does not have div. Okay, so maybe I should just put this outside this script. Let me put it outside. So let me create a new file. Okay, let me create a new file. Let me call it dom.javascript. So I want to move this outside. So I'm removing this so that it doesn't confuse. So dom.js, so we are putting it inside, we are pasting all of this. So since it is a JavaScript file, we don't need to put script around it. We already named it as dot.js, so it's a JavaScript file. So all we just need to do now is to include the file in our DOM3 document. So we are going to remove this. So on top here, on the header section, this header section will say scripts source. The source of the script is dom.js. So if I save it now and I go back, console, go back, script source, let's put the script below here, I don't know, dom.js. Something's wrong. Line 10. Null. Dom.js 4. Sorry. I want to be sure. Oh. I think I copied the wrong thing there. Oh, this thing can be confusing sometimes. Sorry. I went to copy the wrong code. So we are copying what we have here and pasting it inside dom.js. Paste. All right. Then here in dom3, so we remove all these scripts. All right. We remove the script and come to the header section to reference the external script, which is dom.js. So I've explained to us all of this before. So if we click save now, if we come here to refresh, uncaught error, cannot read properties of a null, reading append child. Okay, well, before now this was not giving us a headache, so we don't really know what the issue is. It was working before. Wait, let me dom.js, let me bring it down here and see the button. So because we want the page to load. All right, it's done now. So initially we added the script already run before even getting to the body. We wanted to append to this body, but we added the script here. It's just like putting the JavaScript code at the head here, so it's already reading it. So the moment it saw body and nobody has been declared yet, so that was why it threw the first error. So don't forget to remove the script and put it down. So this way, the page will have loaded before the script will run. So that's that. It's amazing how this content came. If you go to the element now from the body, you will see it inside. Can you see? Div creating paragraph using DOM. But meanwhile, from the code, is not there. This is the code. This is the body is empty. But here is the div has been created. How do we create the div? This is it. First of all, created the div using like a constant. The div now looks like a variable, and we use create element div to create it. Then we now created an inner HTML for the div. So we now append that particular div to the body of the document. That's why it was able to show. So, and there are a lot of things we can do. We can as well give the div other attributes. So we can give the div a class. For instance, we can give the div an ID. So how do we do it? We say div.id straight up equals to, we give it a name. So we can say maybe content. Then we can also give the div a class name. Maybe you want to give it a class name, like class. Well, you use class and ID to style a document. So you can say div.class name. Can you see class name equals to? We can give that a value as well. You can just give it, let's say, note. All right. So this way, everything works. Then here, instead of writing these two lines of statement, I can easily say, I can remove this and write document.body.append child. You see it now, document.body.append child. So if I refresh now, nothing is changing now. The only thing that is changing is that we've added style to this particular div, but we cannot make any sense out of it for now. So let's look at the element. You see that div already has an ID of content and a class of what? Note. And that came to be because we wrote div.id content, div.classname note. All right. So then document.body append child div. So this is an amazing way to use DOM to manipulate the content, the element within an HTML document paragraph. All right. So that's that. Then also there are a lot of things we can still do with it that we can play around. So let me just give you an assignment. I want you to create, using this method, create a paragraph, like something like let div equals to document.create element. Then instead of div, put paragraph, which is just P. Then give that paragraph a content. Instead of using div.innerHTML now, you might probably use div the paragraph dot inner content. You might just use an inner content. Then div.id equals to, then give your paragraph also an ID and give it a class name. Do it and share it with me on Twitter at Tosin Lubinga. Just share it with me. Just when you successfully done it and it works, just share it with me on Twitter. So Twitter, screenshot and share at Tosin Lubinga. Just tag me, Tosin Lubinga. Just tag me, I will see it. So let's proceed. So what we can do again is that we can create. So I'm going to create an header. So I'm giving you the assignment to create a paragraph. So me, I'll just create an header. So I'm going to say let header2 h2 equals to document dot create element into. How do we create header in HTML? Normal HTML we call h2. So we know we have h1, h2, h3, h4, I think till h5. So the same thing, but this one we are using header 2. Then so we'll just do h2. Look at it, h2 dot inner content. Inner content. Is it inner content? No, we're using text content. Text content equals to. So here, the difference between text content and inner.html is that inner.html is creating an HTML tag. So here is creating this paragraph P. We might not even put any content inside. All right, it will still work. It's just that it will not come with anything. So let me save it so that we can take a look at it. So P, we have a paragraph that is empty. Can you see the empty? And nothing is showing here. So but if I return it back, so it will now show if you check back. So let's go back. So but in this case, because we are not creating an HTML tag, so that's why we'll use h2.text content directly. This is an header2 created using JavaScript DOM. All right, so then if you just do it like that, so what we can do now is that we can also append this h2 to this particular div that we created directly. The way we appended div to where is it? The way we appended div to document here. So but this time around, I'm going to move the div. I'm going to move this line of code downward because it must be appended in hierarchy. So if you are appending head2 to div and you are appending div to body, so in your code, body appending div to body must not come first. So you must follow that hierarchy. So let's see how it's going to. Let's see if it's going to show. Let's just try it. Div dot append child. So which child are we appending? We are appending h2 that we created here. So if I click save now, I'm not sure it's going to work. Oh, it's actually working. It's appended it. But that's not, that's not actually how I think it should work. So I think here it should be down here. So it should be document.body.append. We should be appending the div to the body, then appending h2 to the div, like that. So that's the procedure that you're supposed to follow. But of course, it worked initially, but there are procedures. So so that's how it is. So let's say we want to create new list items for a particular menu. So let me create here inside the HTML document. So I'm going to create let me create list first of all. So I'm going to, let me just come here. Don't worry, anything will change, I would do it. So let me create let list L1 equals to, that's listing. When you are listing the document dot create elements. So which element are we creating? So that's li list. So we will now say list will give a list a text content. So that will be what will be inside the list equals to. So we'll come here and say products. So products. All right. So we will now do menu.append child. We will now append menu.append child, and we will now put L1 inside. That's the child we are appending. All right. So we can then proceed to okay. So that is what we will do. But this one will definitely give us an error, and the error is going to I know the error, but I want us to see the error. So it's showing an error in our console. Said reference error, menu is not defined. Here I'm just using a menu tag that was not defined. Then you might want to ask that why are we also using document that is not defined? Why are we using body that is not also defined and is not throwing error? This document and body are already inbuilt special JavaScript functions or methods that you cannot use again. So it's inbuilt. It's just like an inbuilt, just like when you call function, they are all inbuilt, like inner HTML, class name, append child, they are all inbuilt, so you cannot use them. They are called inbuilt method that is compiling with JavaScript, So that's how it works. So how do we come about menu that we are not using? So we can actually create a UL and give it an ID of menu and append it to our body. So how do we do that? Just like how we've been doing before. So we say let UL, okay, equals to document dot create elements into. So what are we creating? Unordered list UL. So that UL will give it an ID of menu. So how do we do that? We say UL dot ID, simple, equals to, like I taught you here, div dot ID equals to menu. All right, so we're removing this. All right, so we'll now use query selector to get this particular ID. Or do we really need that? So we don't even need it. So ul.id. So all we just need to do here is let me just type menu. So so instead of menu now, this is going to be ul. We are now appending this list to the ul. We can append more than one list. So at the end of the day, I will now come here, I will say document dot body dot append child. So I will now put this ul inside the body. So because here I've appended li inside the ul, I'm also appending ul itself to the body. So this time it should work. Refresh. Can you see product? It came up. That's the first. Here, if you see it, ul. See the ID menu that we created here is even there, menu. So that's how it works. So then we can use well, I think that's fine. So if you want to create, I want you to add additional products to this. So I want to see product services listed, product services about us, something like that. Product services about us. I want you to also try to create it. Pause the video and see if you can create it. All right, so if you cannot create it, so we are going to create okay, let me do this one. Some of you, maybe you will make the same mistake. Text content equals to about services. So let's see if it's going to work. It changes the value of product initially to services. Meanwhile, we want product and services to come separately. So that is it. So here in line 30 here, it was no longer. Immediately we attached a new content to li, it override the first one, and that is why service came from. So if it is service that came up first, the second one, it is the second one that will override the first one. If I refresh now, you see that it has changed back to product because it overrides. This product overrides services. So what's the solution to it? So all we just need to do is to create another list element. So we're going to call it let's list li maybe 2. It is whatever we call it. Document, we create it dot create element into. It's the same li element we are creating. List, the same li we are creating. So but in this case we'll have li1. If li1 is service, li is services, we'll now say li1. So sorry, this li2 dot text content equals to product. You understand? So if I save it now, you will be wondering, will it still work? No, it will not work. It will still show services because we've only appended li. We've only appended this li. We've only appended it to ul. So for us to make sure product will show now, for instance, we need to say ul dot append child into L2. So if I click save now and come back here and refresh it, it's throwing an error. Let's see it. L2 is not defined. Sorry, it's supposed to be li2. li2, that's the name of the variable I created. So if I refresh now, we should have product. So about us also is going to be something very similar. So we'll just duplicate this and call this one L3. It's the same L listing we are creating. We will come here, also duplicate this, change this one to L3, then change this one to about us. Then we have to also do the same thing here and do L3. So we are appending the third one to L3. So if I refresh now, oh, you will see it come up. li3 dot text content. So if I refresh now, it will come up. So that's it. So that's how to use DOM to create, documents that ordinarily, if you look at this document 3 now, the body is empty, but the JavaScript is the one creating the content of the HTML for us. So one of those things you want to do as a software developer is to be able to think. So if I want to create like services, product, about us, or home, so it means I will create all these L1, L2, 3 every time, and I will be appending each of them like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost how many? Okay, I think from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what we do as software developers is to now think about how can we make this a bit more easy. So we can create a function and name it menu item. So let's come down here So let's create a function, and let's call the name of the function menu item. Create menu, or just create item. All right, since we are creating items, and just create item. So that item is going to take a dummy, call the name. That's the name that what you want the content to be, equals to, okay, it's not equals to. So so we now say let li equals to document dot create element into li. All right, li. Then we'll now proceed to li dot text content equals to name. That's the name that is passed here when you are calling the item. So when you do that, then you just return li. All right, so when you return li, so what we need to do next is to just hold on. So we are returning the li. So now we can now write ul dot append child. So instead of us calling ly, li, l2, l3, so we'll just say and creating li document. So what we are just doing is we want to cancel out all of this in such a way that it removes with just one line of code. Create, we'll now call the create item, this function, and pass the value, okay, home to it. So let me save it. Let me go to this as you can see, this is the last DOM that we just created by calling this function. So if I come here and I duplicate this function and I write home about us, all right, then the same thing, create item, products, okay, then services, then contact us. So if you do something like this and you refresh, can you see? So it's just this line of code and this, all right, has helped us to take off all of this. So I can easily delete all of this to this point. So instead of this L1, L2, L3, L1 test, L1 test, so this function already helped me to achieve that. So it's as simple as that. So perfect. So if I refresh it now, home, about us, product, services, contact us. Simple. So it has helped us solve that headache of trying to create, this li every time, passing different variables. So this function has been able to make it that easy for us. So just pause and take a look at it again, all right, what we did before and this, and see the difference. So we created this function ourselves to be able to help us achieve that. Thank you. All right, so let's do something. How do we have access to content inside a particular body? So let's take, for instance, we have let me give an example. We have an ID. Let's write a div. I'm inside dom3.html. Okay, so let me write a div. Everything that we'll be writing here since we started, we'll be writing it inside our JavaScript code, everything. Then when we are done with JavaScript, we'll now go to React Native. It's almost the same thing that we'll be doing. Most of the things we'll be doing in React Native will be done inside the React Native JavaScript code. We will not be doing anything inside .html at all. Most of our work will be done inside the JavaScript. So here, let me give this an idea of idea. All right. So so inside here, I'm going to write, we have great ideas to do the best. All right. So let me use span and give this span a style of display none. So I don't want anything that is here to be displayed. This is hidden. All right. So I want us to have access to the information inside this particular div from our JavaScript. So this one is written here. We want to show it in our JavaScript code. Probably you want to send it to an API that is requesting some level of data from you. So this is just in a simple format. Let's check the web page. All right, this is it. We have great ideas to do the best. This first one, you will observe that this is hidden, is not showing because the style display says none. That means you should not display this particular span. So it's not displaying it. So if display is something else, flex for instance, it will show. So if I refresh, see, this is hidden, it's showing. So but it is to be null. So but we now want to use JavaScript to access this particular information. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to come to my dom.js. So just somewhere down here, I'm going to type let idea note equals to get document document dot get element by id. So the id is idea. So if you want to have access to what is inside the id, this particular dom3.html, this, if you want to have access to this information from the console, how do we do that? So we just say console.log, you can just say console.log into idea note dot test content. It's very simple. But if you notice here, when we did li.test content, this test content is helping us to set the value of the test content to name. This idea note.test content is helping us to fetch the value of the content in the div with this particular idea. So if I refresh and come back here and go to our console, you see that we have great ideas to do the best. But here, this is hidden is showing. But here, this is hidden is not showing. Alright? So test content fetches out everything it sees in between your div dom3.html. It will fetch out everything it sees. But on the browser, this is hidden. So the other method we can use to get only the value that is showing, such that we will not see the value that is hidden, is to use inner test. So that's another function that we can use. So here now I can say console.log inner test. I will save it. If I come back here and refresh, you see that it's only showing we have great ideas to do the best. So if I should comment out this test content and inner test, that's the difference between them. Can you see we have great ideas to do the best? So it's not also showing, the inner test is not also showing the hidden value in DOM3. This one is not showing it. But of course, this the initial one, test content, is showing everything inside it. So that's just the difference between using test content and inner test. So difference between using test content and inner tests. All right, so that's as simple as that. Let's also take a look at inner HTML. So let's see what is going to return. Inner HTML. So let's do console. You will see the difference. Console.log into idea note dot inner HTML. So that's the third one. So it will help us to see the differences. So in this case now, this inner HTML will pick all the data and give it to us with all the HTML tags. So if I refresh now, you see now we have great ideas to do the best. Span, everything is coming out. So if I have any other information inside, like I have a paragraph. Okay, let me say this is actually inside a paragraph. So let's move this into a paragraph. You see how the HTML tag is going to come up. So if I refresh, so you will see the paragraph is coming up. So those are the differences between inner HTML, inner test, and test content. I just said I should just include the third one so that you can know the difference. So the same way we use this method inner HTML to fetch, that's the same way we can also set the inner value of this idea note to something different. So if I come here and say idea note dot inner HTML equals to, this is a new idea content, it will automatically change everything inside my idea notes, all right, to just this time around, I'm expected to pass HTML tag, because if I'm not going to put HTML tag, then I don't need to use inner HTML. All I just need to use is just text content, all right, to just output it. So if I come back and refresh, you see this content will change straight up. It has changed the content. This is a new idea content. It has changed it. But the console.log, because this one reads first, this particular console.log, where is it? This one is reading first. So it first of all read what is inside. Everything inside. That's what you see came out here first of all. But later, the value has now changed to this is a new content. So if I come back here and now say console.log, again, inner.html, you see the difference now. Can you see? This is a new idea content. So initially, before I set the value, I use this one to set the value of the inner. I use this one to output the value from the body. So let me put comment here. This outputs the value of the HTML content into the console. This sets a new value for the HTML content. All right, this using it like this and equating it to a different value changes the initial value that is there from the body and changes it to a new value. So when I now console.log it, I now see that new value that we set. And that is why here, when I refresh, you see, you see that something came up, the blink, something came up. This first of all came up before this came up. In a microseconds, it's happened very fast. So we can use set timer to set it later when we get to that point whereby we can set the value to first of all show this, then after some seconds, the value should just change to this. All right, so that is just it. It's as simple as that. Let me use set timeout to make sure that first of all, we create a difference between we create a time difference between when this one shows and when this one will come up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function and call that function after some time. So I'm going to create a function and call the function change content. So after 5 minutes, just change the content. So that function would now put this into change content. So that if I click save now, you see that if I click save, if I refresh, it will just see we have great ideas to do the best. So we are consoling.log both of them, because we just run console.log here with console.log here, because this is a function. It's a function. It will not run until we call it. So if I come here and just call change content, for instance, change content, if I call that function, if you don't call a function, whatever is in the function does not run until you call the function. Here I've called the function. That's when everything here will now run. So if I save it now and I refresh, you see now this new idea content is now showing. This new idea content. The first one is showing the initial content. The function, when we call the function, automatically it changes the content to this is a new idea content. All right. So I hope you are getting what I'm saying. Then I would now, so instead of just calling the function, I'm going to use an inbuilt function called set timeout. So like I said, let's see how we can we can use set timeout to be able to switch this information from showing one data at the first load, and maybe 5 seconds later it should show the second data. So I've explained to you how this particular idea node.inner.html is overriding the initial content that is on the web page from DOM 3. What's actually there is we have great ideas to do the best. But when you come here, this is a new idea content. This is because we've changed the content of the inner text. So we are console.logging it here to see the difference, that at some point it was what was on the HTML page, the page here that showed here. This was what was there initially. Then this is what came there later. That's line 65. So as you can see, line 65. So that's to tell you. But I want a situation whereby we first of all see the initial content, and we will now see the subsequent content that happened when we set the new value of the HTML content to this. So it's very simple. So we use an inbuilt function of JavaScript called setTimeout. This setTimeout takes a callback function, or an inbuilt function that it takes a callback function like this, and the time, how many seconds. So it is always written in milliseconds. So 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. So 5000 milliseconds is going to be 5 seconds. So we want the initial content to show for 5 seconds before switching to the next content. So I will click enter here, then I will copy this and put it inside, so it won't be outside. So that means it will take 5 seconds before this code will run. Then automatically we will see a change we'll see a change on the interface. So when I save it and refresh, of course you can see that it has changed to what was initially there here in the console. Immediately the page loads, the code there was suspended for 5 seconds. Because it was suspended for 5 seconds, every other thing will read. So because it is the same inner.html, that's why the outputs, the console.log are the same. All right, but from here now, let's come back and refresh. We have great ideas to do the best. After 5 seconds, it will change. This is a new idea content. So automatically you can change what is on your on this page using setTimeout. And I want you to go ahead and do one or two things with it using this setTimeout. Make things appear, make them disappear, clear some things, just do something with what we've learned since, and see what you can come up with pending the time we move to the next point. Please do that and share with me on Twitter at Tosin. Just tag me, and we'll continue from there.